These election reform bills that have been introduced, I know they're going to be controversial. There's 8 of them that Alberta Darling put forth, but 3 of them specifically deal with potentially discounting votes. An absentee ballot that doesn't have a valid witness signature would automatically be discounted if there was a vote that was cast that did not have an adjoining poll list signature with it. That would be discounted in a recount. A lot of people are going to, again, accuse the Republican Party of trying to suppress the vote. And what argument can you make to say that's not suppressing the vote to some degree?
Well, it's really not about suppressing the vote. It's about guaranteeing that every single person who's legitimately able to vote has their vote counted. The worst thing to have happen is for votes that were cast fraudulently to be able to actually go through the process. Now, sometimes it's simply poll worker error, and those are the situations we want to make sure we take care of by having better training and ensuring that we have a process that everyone can follow. That's why having a thing as simple as a photo ID is still broadly supported by the vast majority of Wisconsinites as a simple way to make sure that people are able to make sure that their vote is counted and it's counted once. Don't forget, we passed a campaign finance reform bill this spring where we actually dealt with some of the issues to bring us up to date. We included democratic ideas. Therese Brousseau had an idea to have an online registration system which would help get more people registered to vote. We supported that. So we certainly want to guarantee everybody has a right to register and turn out, but that they have to do simple things like proving who they are, signing a poll book to verify that in case they would, commit fraud by voting twice, that we could prosecute them. Things that should be common sense.
Some of that stuff makes sense, but when you talk about somebody forgetting to have a witness sign their absentee ballot and then it's automatically discounted, why not leave that to the circuit clerk or the town clerks who would say, look, I know this person, I'm sure this isn't a fraudulent ballot. It looks like some of the language in that legislation would suggest that is just not going to be a counted vote.
Well, I guess from my perspective, I want to have the same standard whether you live in Stoughton or Superior, and that's why we want to have rules that apply to everyone equally across the board. We've seen circumstances in the past where questions have been raised and there's really no way to know what's the accurate way of moving forward, which is why it's easiest for us to say it's one standard for everybody. If somebody's in a nursing home, having a witness guarantee that the person is actually casting the ballot themselves and it's not somebody in the nursing home just filling it out for them and never getting witnessed, those are the kind of things that we want to guarantee. It never happens in Wisconsin. It doesn't happen very often today, but we certainly want to guarantee every person's vote counts.
I guess the one thing that always gets brought up, and it's something that I've noticed too, is that every example that's given of something like that happening seems to be anecdotal. I mean, is there any strong data that suggests this is happening even on a small scale?
Well, I believe it is, and once again, a lot of what happens in the world is anecdotal. Crime prosecutors have a whole lot of things to go after. We have a drug epidemic taking over Wisconsin, especially among young people. In Milwaukee, we have a crime epidemic that shows murders are on the rise, and it's definitely not somewhere people feel safe. So I don't fault
But again, those are things we can actually point to and
that's
say
why
that
I don't
those
fault
are
prosecutors.
statistically viable.
Right, but that's why when they look at prosecutors, they have a lot of priorities. So they're not going to go out looking for examples of voter fraud because they got to prosecute people who commit crimes as far as murder, rape, all those kind of things. But that's why we still know that they're factually accurate to know that those things do happen. And taking small steps to guarantee that there's the smallest chance possible, I think that's just what responsible government does.
Let's talk a little bit about jobs. I know that, you're somebody who I think believes that, there can be things done to loosen regulations even more than have already been done during the Walker administration. Are there any bills that you're looking forward to putting out there, or I guess supporting, that will help create or improve the job atmosphere?
Yeah, we have continued in Wisconsin to do everything we possibly can to try to create the best environment for private sector job growth. I think that we've done a lot of hard things. We have a balanced budget. We actually have a surplus. By the time this show airs, there's going to be a report showing that we've actually had another surplus that's going to be deposited partly into the rainy day fund and part into our general fund. So our accounting practices definitely are moving Wisconsin in the right direction. Just this week we had one of the lowest unemployment claims since 2005, showing that more and more jobs are being created in Wisconsin and people feel good about where we are. Construction's up, manufacturing's up, we see a good tourism season. So all those things are contributing to Wisconsin having a better economy, and it certainly is showing in our jobs numbers. Now, are they at the 250,000 that Governor Walker promised? I think we're probably going to fall short of that. We are going to do everything we can not to, but with the recall and the chaos that was created by the Capitol protesters and everybody associated with it, Obamacare and the drag that it's having on the economy, UPS talking about making more than, a lot of people going part-time are going to have a huge effect on their bottom line. The fact that DELTA just this week said it's going to cost $100 million to implement Obamacare, and it's going to go right to their bottom line, and that's going to either come from higher prices or lower wages. Those are the things that we're struggling with as these decisions made in Washington have a real impact in Wisconsin.
So are there any specific bills so that you can point to?
One that's probably the one that we're going to highlight this fall is by Dave Craig from southeastern Wisconsin. It's about crowdfunding. One of the things that we've seen that has a huge problem is small businesses having access to capital. We see a lot of entrepreneurs in Dane County who just need to find a way to take their great idea to market, and they've run out of credit cards and friends and relatives. So crowdfunding allows them to go out and seek investment, sometimes over the internet, sometimes through a traditional setting, to be able to get extra money to help them get to market. So I think that's a bill, coupled with some of the other ones that we've already done for more money for worker training, more money to help reduce our tax burden and make regulations easier to follow. I think all those things put together really have Wisconsin in a good place.
Are you, there's one bill out there that I know a lot of business leaders in the Madison area, a lot of Democrats, even Mark Pocan was on the show. He said, I really want Republican leadership to make a strong statement that this bill is not going forward because it's ruining investment in biotech in Wisconsin. And that's a bill Andre Jacques introduced that would essentially outlaw any use of fetal tissue for the purposes of research. Fetal tissue that comes from an abortion for the issue of research. Is that something you can say is not going forward? Because a lot of people have called on you to say that.
Yeah, I don't believe that that bill is going to move forward during this legislative session. There's even differences in the pro-life community where some have said this is an issue to champion, others have said it's not as high a priority. So I certainly think that until there's consensus, even among the pro-life community, it's not an issue that Wisconsin is going to be taking up in this legislative session.
You mentioned a surplus. Can you give us an idea of how much this new surplus is going to be?
Yeah, it looks like we're going to have another $71 million that will be revenue projections beyond even where our last budget showed we would end up. So our current fiscal year is going to end up with a surplus of over $700 million going forward into the next biennium. I think it just shows a good, prudent fiscal accounting really makes a difference, and it helps to show why we can invest in schools, job training, making sure we have enough money to have the university run well. All of those things are priorities for Republicans, and now that our budget's finally actually in balance, we can show our priorities, which is what we've been doing.
All right, Robert Voss, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Ray.